Okay, been a while since I live stream, so let's get it going. Obviously, we've had a lot of sport going on, but most of it in the last month has been the football World Cup. Now, it's been a very good tournament so far for the most part, and a lot of people were concerned that the VAR would be a shambles. For the most part, it hasn't. It's just there's a few teething issues with the VAR. They thought that the tournament itself would be marred by crowd violence. That hasn't happened. And they were concerned about, England failing and some of these big nations not doing as well. And I'm actually surprised. I predicted an all-European final. I am surprised by how poor some of the South American teams were. I'm surprised by the fact that we've only had one game, which was a 0-0. I thought there'd be more scoreless draws, and we've only had the one. Game. That's up. So a lot's going on. A lot's been happening that's positive within the World Cup. Of course, other sports have been going on as well. We've had we've got Wimbledon's going on right now, and Andy Murray. We're not sure how long he's got left playing. He's missed. Andy Murray is not in Wimbledon this year. He pulled out week before. What else we've got? We've got Tour de France is going on at the moment, and obviously Chris Froome saga. So these are some big talking points. Of course, you've got the England v India Test series starting in a couple of weeks, and the T20s, India have dominated that. India have smashed the T20s. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to discuss. Now, all my notes are over there, and I really can't afford to go again. And of course, the football transfer market has been going on, but it hasn't been as big news as it could have been, because I think the World Cup has overshadowed it. And yeah, the England performance in the World Cup has been pretty good. And of course, we could discuss we could discuss many things that are going on in sport at the moment. But in the NHL, since the last live stream I did, a guy called Liam Kirk, who's British, has been drafted. Now, he went in one of the later rounds. He went the 7th round rather than the 3rd or 4th, which he was predicted. But he's made it into an NHL franchise. Now, whether he plays any games in the NHL is another thing. But it's big news. Of course, for an NHL fan, what's going to happen to Mr. Erik Karlsson? They're the two big stories for me in the NHL right now. Because John Tavares, as well. The John Tavares, move. These three things. This is big for British ice hockey, and it's actually big for the NHL in general. But these two, John Tavares, that's been going on for a year. Toronto finally signing, but the Erik Karlsson one, this could see a lot of teams making moves so he fits on their roster, and other teams could benefit from the players being moved out. And I've done a video on the Winnipeg Jets today, so there is that to consider. Now, since I last did my last live stream, we've done some magnets, so let's get that out of the way. I'll put the magnets on the board, I think, because I've now got 2 channels. And look at that. So yeah, I've made some magnets, and we're going to whack the history magnets on one side, behind my head, and the sports magnet, oh Christ, on the other. So let's get the magnets up there. History magnets, sports magnets, So yeah, we've now got a few props to work with. We've got the set, we've got the laptop stand, we've got the my pointer, we've got the set now doable. Oh shit, there's pens going everywhere. This live stream's going really well, no one's even fucking asking questions. But so we have got things changing, you know. Get back a little bit there. So oh shit, oh no, let's break my new laptop stand. So yeah, there is things happening. I've now got my history channel and I've got, you know, the sport channel. So there is some positivity taking place. Very good positivity. Cool. Excellent. Now, of course, obviously the big talking point at the moment is you know, as I say, the Football World Cup. And it has been a very positive tournament. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. The Football World Cup hasn't been negative in most connotations. So we'll get those magnets out of the way for a minute, and then we'll put them up in due course. But no, the Football World Cup has been exceptionally positive in the way that, apart from a couple of controversies, the tournament itself hasn't been a bad tournament, and it's been positive in the aspect that there have been some, it's just been a very entertaining tournament. Goals per game is up, and 2 out of the last 4 have never won the trophy. So there's a 50% chance that the name on the trophy will be a new team, a new country, Belgium or Croatia, do it. And for me, like in that aspect, like having that 50% chance of a new name on the trophy is good for the sport. It's good. There we go. Now we can see the whole frigging thing. Oh shit! We not do that. Oh no, let's break my new board. Move that back a bit. Move that a little bit. So yeah, while I'm setting up things. So yeah, the Football World Cup has the NHL draft was really, really important for several reasons. As I said earlier, the fact that Liam Kirk gets drafted is pretty amazing for British ice hockey. It's pretty amazing. The cricket, I've been asked to do more cricket videos, and it's difficult because T20, it's India's game. The fact that they dominated England in the T20 doesn't surprise me in the slightest. The real test will be to see how the Indians adapt to the conditions in August. That's when the Test series starts. So in August, yeah, it's great, it's entertaining, and if you're a neutral, you love it. But until Test series actually gets underway, you know, I'm going to be focusing on the Test series more. I do think that England being so inconsistent at the start in May has left some selection headaches for the selectors of the England side. If I'm honest. Obviously, if you're a Shell fan, Erik Karlsson, where is he going to end up? Because you've got the Sens, where he currently plays. You've got the Rangers interested, apparently, and they are will by themselves. And Tampa. This felt lightning. I can't spell. Hang on a sec. And Erik Karlsson currently with the Sens, whether he could end up here or here. Big money. But I don't think money is the reason why. I think he's had enough of the Senators organisation. I think the way that these guys, they have cap issues. So it'll be interesting. Stays at the Senators, the Rangers, ends up Tampa or somewhere else. It'll be very interesting. Personally, I don't have a clue. I really don't know would end up. It's a difficult one. And then we could discuss, like, who's going to be Stanley Cup favourite. I mean, it's an interesting one. There is no right or wrong answer when it comes to where players go. I mean, as long as they feel love, respect, and they can fit in with any teammates, I don't see a problem. Shit, it's hot. But yeah, we also, like, it's interesting, what's going on now. Today in football science, I mean, Jack Wilshere. Jack Wilshere signing for 3 years at West Ham. I cannot believe Arsenal didn't want to get any money and fight harder to try and keep that. I am as West Ham got him rather than Bournemouth, but I can understand why he's gone to West Ham. In London, it's still local to him. He's a local lad to London, so it means he doesn't move house and relocate his family. But West Ham got him on a free. Cannot believe Arsenal fight harder to keep. What else? We've got a few other things to discuss. I mean, obviously, I've done a video on this. Luis Enrique being his coach. I mean, that is interesting in itself. He will see out his 2-year contract. He see out that 2 year. So there's a lot going on in football, but I haven't really covered the club stuff because the World Cup's still going on, and until the World Cup's over, the transfer market's going to be a bit average. And then you've got to look at, obviously, and Team Sky and what's going on with that scandal as well. Today on the Team Time trial, they were booed. They were booed and jeered at by fans. So that's something that ain't going to go away, and they've got to prepare for a very tough tour ahead of them. And if there's any controversies on this tour, it's going to bite them. There are a few other bits and pieces going on. I mean, I think England have a very good chance of winning the World Cup, for example. You could look at a variety of things on that front. Obviously, so we've got money. Oh shit, I can't say. I can't tell at all. And that's kind of fun. So if you're interested in we'll do some videos on that later. It's just history, so it's kind of a bit of a hobby. It's me, I'm going to read books. And we've done a good video so far. We've had some interesting comments back, and we've got 15 subscribers on already, and we haven't done much yet on it, but I think that's a bit of a hobby in the background. In the F1, and I'm going to say, are they still the top dogs in F1 with what happened in the last 2 races? That's interesting to look at as well. So there's a variety of things we could talk about, and I'm happy to discuss several things on the nights as well. But no, we've got several things going on. I mean, the F you've got F1, you've got football cup. That's meant to be an A. You could look at, I don't know, for example, you could look at next. That's an interesting one. I didn't watch any of the England-India T20, and the reason why I didn't is partly T20 is India's game, but the Test series, you're definitely going to be looking forward for that Test. And I think in India, personally, India, I think will win that. I honestly think India will win the Test series. I don't know why. I think England does have a lot of issues when it comes to various bits and pieces. But I mean, India winning the T20 series doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Obviously, with the IPL, that favours India in the sense that get the pens and my magnets sorted. I think moment there's not a lot of rain, so that's going to affect how the pitches respond. And I also think for Archer he needs to shout. I understand. Like, I have done a lot of cricket videos lately, and it's the Football World Cup. So if you think of it like this, at the moment the channel is, the football. That's the big thing at the moment. But then you've got to understand also that, oh God, I can't. Wimbledon's on as well. And that's something that obviously it's now the second week. The big guns are all, blazing. Can Federer win a record title? Can cricket at the moment is somewhere down here. When the Test series starts, it will be up here. That's what I'm getting at. I will be doing some cricket videos, in time. I'll be doing a couple of looking at some of the from the past. And yes, the heat wave. It may be a little bit cooler today, and it's going to be a little bit cooler this week, but there's still no rain. So that is an issue. And cricket is a sport that loves dry weather, but that's going to affect how the ball bounces, how it swings, how the back onto the ball, outfielders are going to be, how fielders are going to feel in this, and batsmen. If there's two batsmen who are at the crease for a good session and half, 2 sessions, if there's a batsman who can just get in, how's that? I mean, a water break's going to be more common. Is it going to slow the run rate down? Is it up? I mean, it's going to take players. It is. Guys is different to T20. We're decent, but Scotland has got to hurt. The one day defeat to Scotland has really, really got to hurt the English. And the inconsistency against Pakistan in that Test series a couple of months ago, that's going to hurt as well. Honestly, the heat wave you have here affect a lot of stuff. It's going to affect not only the cricket, but the tennis, motorsport. But you've got to feel for those in the touring cars, because they're going to be melting. There's no aircon in saloon car racing. I love my touring, and that's going to affect them. They're going to be very hot engines. Heat. Same with the super bikes. Affect the cycling Tour of Britain. The cycling Tour of Britain near the summer. That's going to be really hot as well. Spelling's gone. So all sports, rugby league in there because the rugby league season is still going. All these sports that play in summer, if the heat continues, all these sports will be and not necessarily in a good way. Especially the league, that's a very physical sport. They're going to need drinks breaks. Cricket, that could affect the batsman at the crease and the fielders in the field to look out for. Tennis, it's affecting in the way there's not delays. There's been like one passing shower thunderstorm, but tennis, they're going to get, if it's a 5-setter, they're going to struggle. Tour of Britain cycling, they're struggling the heat if it continues because it'll be brutal. And motorsport, they don't have aircon in these touring cars and saloon car races. They're going to boil engines, all fluids. That gets hot. Where's my rubber? So this is what's happening with the heat wave. The cricket itself could benefit with the rain delays, so more play can get played, but the heat will take it out of the play. That I have no doubt. Yes, England are number one in ODIs, but world rankings are flawed. They really are. World rankings are flawed. Look at the World Cup. 2 of the teams in the World Cup are ranked outside the top 10 in the World Cup semi-finals in football. So, well, flawed. But it is interesting. They are the best ODI, but they struggle at T20. And matches, they're all over the place. So I think India, when it comes to the test series, I think India are favourite. That's my personal opinion. And I could do a video on why I think the squad is so strong and why England have some issues. Performing this heat at his age, the injuries he's had and the wear and tear on his body. Those young players for Archer in this heat perform because some of them are young, raw, very inexperienced. Would they struggle in the heat? That's an issue there. But I'm not saying it's incorrect what you're saying. I do think the heat is going to have an effect on one days, but also the full test series as well. And there seems to be no end in sight for this hot spell. So that's going to be interesting. But no, I'm interested to see what other things you guys have because there's a lot of cricket questions already. I understand why there's cricket questions. But taking this out of the equation now, let's just get rid of that. Because I've all sport sort of football lately because of the World Cup and or soccer, call it that, and that you know I had to. It's the biggest tournament in the world, and that is the video assistant referee. For the most part, I think it actually has worked. The only issue, you just get a different pen, is what would be a good colour? The time it takes to make a decision. That takes too long. Now, in other sports, like the third with the third, when it's a run out or something like that, it doesn't take anywhere long when it comes to review. It's normally very quick. Football World Cup, that is what is taking a long time. That is the big problem. For the most part, it's work. They've just got to work, you know, the time taken and you know, some of the player reactions aren't great and they're they may regret holding back a year on it. But that's the VAR. I mean, you can ask anyone can ask me questions on the VAR, and I can answer. The issue with having a video referee or a pro official time, and it's going to be to everyone's enjoyment. But we'll see. But no, you need a camera upgrade. Okay, I watch you. It's just what I've got. It's the inbuilt webcam. There's not a lot I can really do with it. I'm afraid at the moment, just haven't got the money. I understand what you're saying. It's just money's time. I have the money to upgrade at this current time. It will happen in time. I will get a better setup as more money becomes available, and how the channel goes. It's just, I think it's the lighting as well where I am in my other room, which means I have to move all my set over there and all the whiteboard and the laptop stand and move everything. The lighting's better, but it could also be to do with the internet signal. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. I mean, my iPad has a better camera, but there's sounds where there's a glitch between the camera and the sound. It doesn't match up. It has a very good microphone. Sometimes just listen. Sometimes what some of my subscribers do, they say we like listening because it's a voice for radio. But I understand what you're saying with the camera. It is just the best camera I can get. It's inbuilt. It's in the laptop. Until I get a webcam that actually is a decent webcam. It costs money, and money is something that I have a lack of now. And it's just I get through to the next bit of cash. There are ways to up it. Just try full HD. It's fair enough, but try in full HD if you can. Like 10. It might. I do admit that the light in the room I'm in have an effect on how the picture quality looks. And it with connectivity with my internet provider, so that be a problem to have. It seems to be better at the front of the house, so I'm going to move this down because that means taking my wall down, taking my laptop stand down, and then unplugging those to do that because there's no space at the moment. But I know what you're saying. You're not the first person to say that the quality of the picture isn't great, but the sound quality is better on this. The picture quality on my old is better, but the sound quality is not as good. So I've had to make a trade-off between picture and sound, and I've gone for sound. Sound is for me more important. But we are getting there. There will be a webcam coming at some point. It's just set up, getting that, and improving as we go along. But I understand what you're saying. It's just on the tech I have. I'm doing this on a budget. I mean, I've had to steel to get the whiteboard. I've had to so I'm limited in what I can do. Not all YouTube. I mean, most YouTubers don't make. I do this as a hobby. I'm not getting any money at the moment. There can be, it's not going to happen overnight. Long process, but this is a hobby. This is for me. It's more, a hobby. I try not to take it overly seriously, but at the same time, the bigger the channel gets, the more serious I take my hobby. So don't worry, there will be improvements in time. God, this heat wave is killing me. But I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that what you're saying is saying. I understand it. It's just at the moment I cannot afford an expensive laptop. I had to get the best laptop available. It was still expensive, and we're still talking like it's got good memory, it's got good uploads, good processor. It do its job. The camera isn't the best, and I'm limited in what I can do. But back to the cricket, I think India have a very good chance to win this test up series in August. I really do. I think England have to look at their squad, who they select, and seriously look at their depth, and they're concerned that after attack isn't looking great right, and they've got to work out why batsmen regularly get in but then get out very, very. So the current lineup needs to be looked at why batsmen are struggling, why bowlers aren't performing. The whole Ben Stokes situation, I think the last folks and his pending. That's something that's, I think, affecting the playing. I think Joe Root was ready captain as well. There was lots of things we talk about comes to the current England setup. I think India are in a very strong position. And I think the way the conditions have been, I think people like playing in these conditions a lot more. If it was a rain delays, delays, I think the India like playing in the way the weather is right now. That plays into India's hands as well. I think they're going to adapt very, very well to the conditions. First test in their test, which I felt 3-test series, not a 2-test series, but the way the ICC works. To say that very, very good chance India could overturn England quite easily. It's a concern. Right, and we've internet connection. It's fucking marvelous. All right, time to time to fucking get out of the way. Get out of the way. Now we're migrating rooms because the internet in this house is shite. Oh shit! Oh shit! Right, that's bugging me. Oh shit. There. Oh shit. Right, we've had to migrate rooms. The internet completely failed in the other room, so we're in here now. Yeah. But let me just get the laptop in the right place. Oh shit. I just love it when my internet fails. Right. But yeah, no, I understand that. Right, we've migrated rooms because we had to, because the internet decided to completely fail, which is just friggin' marvelous. And now I have a bed in the way. But yes, I understand what is being said with. I'm hoping the picture quality is better now that I've moved. What else if I turn the plug on? That'll be helpful. So I don't run out of battery. Oh, everything's got a bit tits up. That's better. I'm hoping the picture quality is better now, and we've had to move to the front of the house. Oh, that was a move that I didn't want to do. It was bloody hot. But yes, I do understand like the concerns that are there. Right, any more questions? Because we've had to do a quick studio move. We've had to move all the equipment out of one room into the other room, and carrying a whiteboard and a laptop stand wasn't the best idea I've had because I almost fell down the stairs. But I'm hoping the pitch quality is better now. I understand that, yes, the questions I've had for more cricket videos. I will look at Jofra Archer. I think that is someone I need to look at, is Jofra Archer. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I feel that he can contribute to England. I think he's something different that most teams wouldn't have necessarily had to play against. He's a different style. He's a relative unknown. Why not throw him in there and give him a chance? You know, I don't see why he shouldn't be given his chance with England. If I'm honest, it would be nice to see England take a risk on a player rather than not. They're not taking enough risks for the players. They're being too chop and changey. They're not giving some of these players a chance in the team. I say give Jofra Archer a chance, but that's my personal opinion on the Jofra Archer situation. I'm not saying he's going to be the perfect choice for England necessarily, but it's worth a shout. It's worth giving him a go. Why not? Um, he has shown that he is that. I cannot use the green. I'm not going to use the orange. That's it. He could be that unknown kind of player, that unknown quantity that may push them over, you know, from a team in rebuild mode to an exciting team. But it's totally up to, you know, what the selectors want to do, really. But there's like, you know, it's difficult to, because he may not fit in with the England side. It's also to do with how a player can fit in with his teammates, and how a player can adapt to a different style of game as well. Just because he's very good as an individual doesn't mean he necessarily will work well within the England setup. That's another thing that people need to realise. He is young. He is a raw talent. So whether he's ready, for example, to be that guy, that's another question entirely. I understand why he regularly gets brought up, but I don't think necessarily he may not be the answer. It's the best way to put it. He may not be the answer that England seek. So we'll have to see. You know, we'll have to see if he can fit in. I will say this: there are some players who are very very good, talented players in any sport don't necessarily work at international level. We've seen that with so many players who are really really bright and talented young individuals, and they don't quite do it at international level because they don't necessarily fit into an international system, or they don't necessarily work in that international environment. That's not to say they're bad players. And there are some players who do very well at international level that don't really step up to the play at club level. It is what it is. So I'm not saying that don't take a risk. I think the England selectors need to be a little bit more, take a few more risks when it comes to these young, exciting players, because there are some that I think deserve a chance. But I mean, we can be critical on the whole England setup, and I have been for quite some time. That's why I think India are in a very good position, because England aren't in a good place behind the scenes, and they have been very, very poor on the field as well for quite some time. But it is interesting that Jofra Archer does get raised. It is interesting that, yes, for some reason in 1 days, England are the number one team. Whether that they peaked too soon before the World Cup, that's another thing. I mean, the World Cup's next year. You would want to peak at that tournament, not before it. So, and of course, a World Cup, many teams will up their game because it's a World Cup. They play better because of what's on the line at the end of it. So we shall see. But the Jofra Archer question is not going to go away. But the England selectors, there's a big issue with the England selection policy for the England cricket team right now. Big issue. But I understand why that question gets raised. Obviously, I mean, I will say this about any player when especially when they're young and they're a raw talent and they've been scouted or they've been followed and they're making news. So you look at Liam Kirk in the NHL draft. A lot of hardcore NHL fans don't think he's going to make it, and yes, he is a 7th round pick. And for those who don't understand the NHL draft system, that's an interesting thing. He was predicted to go higher in the draft, and the draft is something that we can look at another time. The Football World Cup, yes, I've been covering the Football World Cup, and I do think England have a very good chance. I think the France-Belgium game will probably be more taxing on those two teams than England-Croatia. I really do. I think with Croatia having to play 2 extra times and 2 penalty shootouts, that's taken out of them. They did look very leggy against the Russians. I think, looking at it, I think the Belgians have a very, very good attack. The French need to step up that level. I think. It depends which Paul Pogba turns up. It depends if Matuidi, Mbappe, and Griezmann, all those players can all play together and really on the big game. Because so far the French haven't exploded into the tournament. They're doing what they did in the Euros 2 years ago. They've got some great individual talent, but as a team, they're just a little bit methodical and they're a little bit slow and they're dragging themselves over the line. The Belgians in attack look frightening. Defence, I'm not sold on Belgium's defence. Especially that Japan game, they were 2-0 down and had to attack to get back in, not defend to get back in. They had to attack, and they could have conceded more goals themselves. I would say England have a very, very good chance. The France-Belgium game is too close to call. I think England will go into the game against Croatia more rested because Croatia's 2 extra time penalties. That's going to take it out of them. The heat in Russia is the same as here in England. There's been a massive heat wave in Russia. Temperatures are up, lack of rainfall. That also will have a massive impact. So yeah, I would say I don't want to predict anything, but there's a 50% chance of a new name on the trophy. Now, I did pick Croatia as the team to win. England have done well. I'm going to give England out of the final 4. Let me just rank the final 4 out of 10. Okay. Now let's have a look at this final 4. Here's the final 4, and you will notice I have changed rooms for those who've been in and out the lobby. Right, here's the final 4. I'm going to rank Croatia a 7 out of 10. England, I'm going to rank a 9 out of 10 because they have really performed very, very well. France, I'm going to give a 7 as well because they've looked a little bit slow and methodical, and I don't think slow, methodical possession football is going to win you tournament. And Belgium, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 as well. The thing I'm not sold on is Belgium's defence. Belgium against Japan, they looked very open in defence, and it was an end-to-end game. And I'm not so sure Vincent Kompany's 100%, but he's undroppable right now. If you drop Vincent Kompany, that will affect the confidence of that defence, but he's not 100% because when you had Alderweireld and Vertonghen side by side, they look very good. You put Kompany in the middle, it breaks up that unity they had. But that's the rankings. I think Croatia have actually underperformed for me. In the group stage, they would have had 9 out of 10. None of these teams are perfect. In fact, England were not predicted to be here. Croatia are ranked 20th in the world, which I think this is why I find world rankings a flawed system. France and Belgium, people did expect them to be here, but France are too slow in possession. If Pogba has a bad game, because Mbappe in the last round was isolated a lot of the time, if Pogba has a bad game and Griezmann, let's say, tweaks a muscle or is not really on it, they lose. They do. Pavard is a centre-back playing at right-back. He doesn't look 100% comfortable. He's getting more confident with going forward, but not sold on Pavard there. Belgium, their one concern for me is defence. But then if you look at the game against Brazil, they were holding on in the second half. They really just ran out of ideas. So I think it's most likely a England-Belgium final. I'm honestly going for an England-Belgium final. I know a lot of people want to see England-France or Croatia in the final, but I'm going for an England-Belgium final. That's my personal opinion on it. The way England's confidence has gone up a lot, Belgium were holding on in their last game, and England just cruised through against Sweden. when it comes to these two playing, Croatia have had to play 2 penalty shootouts. England have had 1. So England are that much more rested. They played that little less football. Yes, England's defence not 100% sold in it. None of these defences fill me with confidence. I'm putting that out there. None of these defences are say to me, world class, like Italian 2006 defence. We're not on that level. But this World Cup, there's a reason why only one game has finished 0-0. Only one game has been scoreless because defences aren't as good. And the VAR, we could discuss a lot. And we could discuss the fact that, you know, goals per game up. So if you are a neutral fan, it's been more exciting. And if you're a hardcore fan and a proper stats nerd, goals per game is up. The VAR's had an effect, and around 50% have come from goals, have come from set plays. That's up. So that is up. So if you're a true hardcore stats nerd, everything is pointing to some high-scoring games. If these are all 0-0s, I'll be very surprised because the teams want to do it in 90. The fact Croatia have decided to take, they've got the talent to push on, but they've taken 2 penalty shootouts. They've not won a knockout game in regulation. All the others have at least won one of their 2 knockout games in normal time. That says to me that Croatia are the weakest of the lot because that heat humidity has taken it out of them. And Subasic's their starting goalkeeper. Is he going to be fit? But then we could discuss, like, you know, who their key players are going to be. The defence for England, okay, defence. The weakness here, and we'll go through the weaknesses, all right? The weakness for Croatia is they haven't really got a true, let's go weaknesses. True centre forward. England, it is defence. France, it's the speed of their play. And Belgium, again, I would say defence. Going forward, they're lethal, but defence, weakness. The speed of play for France, and slash their mood. They're a very moody team. If they're not really wanting to push for it, it depends on Pogba. Pogba, Griezmann, Matuidi, and Mbappe. If they are not in the mood, they're lacking that true target man. Mandzukic is playing out the left or the right, so there's that. So that's what we could discuss with the weaknesses there. It's interesting because I haven't had a lot of football questions on my live streams of late. So, but yes, the VAR. Now, the VAR, I will talk about the VAR again because VAR strengths 90% of decisions correct. So 90% correct decisions. So it is working. The bad side of VAR is, again, length of time. What needs to happen with VAR to be more effective? Speed up. Simple. That's what needs to happen is they need to speed up the length of time it needs to take a review. It's taking too long on review, and that is aggravating fans. And this is why fans are annoyed. The fact that, though, it has missed a lot. The one other issue, and this is a big issue, the missed calls. That's another big issue. The 2 problems with VAR is when it is taking a decision and getting it right, length of time. But then it has missed a lot of calls earlier on in the tournament. It is the first tournament that VAR has been used. So we could sit here and discuss the VAR, but when it does get the decisions right, it's getting a lot of them right, and that's improving the correct decision ratio. It's gone up. So that is why more free kicks and penalties and set plays are getting goals. But yes, I mean, we could discuss multiple things really. I mean, the cameras are placed all around the ground. So you have, let me just get that out of the way. So I'm going to draw a diagram. It's going to be a really bad diagram, so bear with me, people. So you've got your football pitch like this. So there's your D. You know, you've got your centre circle. There's your D. You will have cameras like here, 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 here. There'll be all your cameras. So there could be anywhere up to I think there's about, I don't know, 36 plus camera angles. Something like that. So they're positioned all around the pitch. So you can have 2 camera angles that will focus on this area. You'll have these 2, you know, it'll be cameras in here. Yeah, so you'll understand what I'm getting at. The cameras are all focusing in from different angles, and then you can get a better picture. So let's say a foul takes place on the edge of the box there. There'll be a camera here, camera there, and there may be a camera on the far side of the pitch as well, and the rear view camera. So there could be 8 cameras focusing on the foul that takes place there. If there's, let's say, a foul somewhere here, you'll have several camera angles that could pick up the foul there. You'll also have the cameras on the other side of the pitch picking up the foul. So it's the same in rugby, it's the same in ice hockey. You have the camera angles all round, up in the stand as well, higher up. So you have the angled cameras from above and the pitch side cameras. There's at least 36, if not up to 90 cameras, depending on the stadium. The reason why it takes longer, is you've got to check, let's say, up to 5 angles. Because one camera angle may look like there's no foul, and then the other one there is a foul. So you've got to bear in mind you've got the referee on the field, plus, so he will say foul, no foul, and then you have the VAR room who have to go through 5+ camera angles. It shouldn't take as long as it does. It is a new system, so they're learning the system. I understand a lot of frustrations with casual fans like yourself, Casey, and then the hardcore fans who've been watching the sport for 10, 20, 30 years before tech came along. So you've got the ref on the field, plus 2, right? But then you've got the VAR room with, I don't know, 5 officials, something like that. And they've got to check all the camera angles. And they also have to come to a decision going, yeah, you have missed something. There's a lot of communication that's involved in this. I understand the frustration, but it's a new system. No system is going to work perfectly from the get-go. That's the issue. That's the problem. Now, I mean, we have seen it in the NHL. So I'm going to compare it to other sports. So you've got the sports that I know that use video refs. Okay, I'm going to list the sports that I know that use video refs that are team sports, not Olympic sports. We're going pure professional team sports. You've got football is experimenting. Okay, then you have rugby. Rugby league was before rugby union, and then rugby union followed up, I would say, a couple of years later because they have a different rule set and a different set of rules. And then you've got, you know, ice hockey's in there. You've got cricket has a review system or a video ref system, and now tennis is using Hawkeye. Football could have spoken to any of these sports. Football's doing it its own way. these sports have had. I mean, cricket's about what I would say 10+ years. Ice hockey, we were talking about 20+ years at the NHL, and these two, I would say, about 15 years, 15/20 years. Tennis, I would say again, last 10 years. Football has only been using the goal line 4 years for goal line, and 1 year it's learning. So if you look at the other sports, let me get rid of these arrows. Look at the other sports that football could have asked for assistance, right? They've been doing it for 2 decades. They've been doing it a combined total of 4 years. That's one of the reasons why it's new. It's completely new, and they're learning. Now, in these, and in this, NHL and Olympics, KHL. So when it comes to top level, that's why football has. No, the reason why the NHL, they do have their social media, they do, but for a team to then basically undermine the league is wrong. Well, this is why football is struggling. It's learning how to use a video ref. These other sports have had years and decades of video ref. But if in response to the NHL, yes, every NHL team has a Twitter account, a YouTube account. Players have their own Twitter accounts. But if a NHL team was to undermine the league, that undermines the sport. The amount of replays there are, and the amount of scrutiny that the North American media puts on the NIHL. Again, because it doesn't have. Yes, the NIHL does have a lot of YouTube, and they rely on social media to grow the game because it's a smaller game in the country. It's British ice hockey. Same with the Elite League. But the issue is this: not all the teams will have every game on their YouTube channel, and that's why they can't base solely on video. They have to go on what the ref has seen, what the linesmen have seen, and they have to rely more. It's basically like if a team is to deliberately undermine the officials, it creates a distrust between the officials and the players, and there's already an issue with not enough players wanting to get into coaching and into officiating, not just in ice hockey but in multiple sports, not just here in the UK but around the world. But if I can go back to the Germany in the World Cup, they lost for 2 reasons. One, they were slow in possession. If this World Cup has taught me anything, you've got to be quick in possession, quick movement. They were very slow and methodical, which allowed other defences just to get set. That's why Mexico beat them. That's why they struggled against Sweden, and that's why South Korea did them. They were too slow and plodding. And secondly, key players. Underperformed. Key players did not perform to what is expected from the level of Plus, you could also argue squad selection. So no Goetze, and Mane. 2 key omissions. Those 2 guys weren't there. So there you go. So here you go. You've got, they were slow in possession. Some of the key players that were given key roles didn't perform very well. And squad selection. Argentina is a different one. Argentina is a completely different kettle of fish. And it's not just about the fact that Diabla didn't play. That was down to Argentina. It's not on Messi. It's not on Aguero. It's not on the players that played. It is on their coach, Jorge. I've misspelled his bloody name now. Sam Paoli. That's it. This guy. He's the reason why. His tactics don't suit the style of play that Argentina play. He was playing guys in the wrong position. And then you've got to look at leaving certain players were left out. Other players were injured. But his tactics don't suit the Argentinian side, and he lost the dressing room. But that's my personal opinion on that. His tactics lost. He lost the dressing room. They weren't happy with him being in charge. You could tell they weren't a happy squad. There was a lot of unrest in that dressing room. That's why Argentina struggled. Partly another reason why they've had their golden generation. They need to rebuild. They need to look at what's going wrong with their youth setups and their domestic game. Argentina are at their best when their domestic game is producing good players. Too many of their players are taken too young into Europe, and they don't necessarily progress the levels they should. They need to look at their own domestic game and strengthening the domestic game in Argentina. But Jorge Sampaoli is why. His tactics didn't suit the style of play that Messi, Aguero, Higuain. That's why. Although that winger Pavon, what do I think on the Division 1 South? Well, Basingstoke, the team that is going to struggle the most because now they're based with Bracknell and other crap is their last season. These guys. I think they've got the rejects from all the other teams. All their good players have gone. They're basically their squad has been gutted, not just by Bracknell, by every other team in the division. All their good players have gone. The women's team has gone. Their rink. There's the issues there. That's a team that I think is really going to struggle this year. I think it's not a happy place. That's what I think's gone wrong. It's cost me the last season. The rink's falling apart, and there's the women's team have been have been forced out. So, and I know some people who actually are linked with the Basingstoke setup, and I feel very, very sorry for them. But that's my opinion on Basingstoke. I think that they're going to be the team that's really going to be how they're going to play. The IPL. The IPL is interesting. I'm not sure it will fall, but every sport has a period where the future seems a little bit uncertain. I'm not saying that it's going to fail, but there has been rumours of, in the IPL, there's been rumours of this word. That's what could kill the IPL, is if any of that comes to pass, then we're in trouble. But that's what could kill the IPL. You just got to look at Sri Sant. a couple of years ago and his betting scandal and getting banned and put in prison. There you go. I do think it is Sampaoli. The players weren't on side. It doesn't matter if you can't fit certain players into a lineup. You've got to have a team unity. There was no team unity on that Argentina squad. The fact that this guy had to get him out the group stage. If he's playing in the centre forward position against Nigeria in the last 10 minutes, that says what's wrong with everything. It comes down to the coach. And the coach had no say on those tactics. That was Marcus Rojo and Messi and Banega in midfield saying, you do this. The coach had no say on Marcus Rojo scoring that goal. That is where it lies. I'm not saying Marcus Rojo is a bad player. He's got a very, very good pair of pegs on him. He's a two-footed player. But if your centre-back is basically playing a centre-forward and the coach hasn't told him to go there, and it's other players on the pitch saying, go here, and he also volunteers to do it, that says the coach has lost the dressing room. And I don't think Sampaoli ever had the dressing room. And yes, Argentina do have an issue with youth development and progression. But for me, Sampaoli was part of the problem. His nothing worked. The players weren't playing for him. And they didn't seem like a united dressing room. There was a lot of, it was a very unhappy dressing room. I just say bring back Cesar Menotti from the 70s and the 80s. He got them to win World Cup. So there we go. And you can get Aguero, Messi on the same pitch. You can. It's all about playing quick passing football. Though again, they were slow and methodical, and some of their big names really fell flat. I don't think Messi played at his best either. He was very isolated in the system they were playing. Right, let's have a look at this. Bracknell, I'm happy with. I'm happy with the team that the ownership have put together. Swindon, again, I'm happy with the team the ownership has put together. Cardiff, wow. Question mark. I don't know about Cardiff. They could be the whipping boys again. These two, and don't forget Peterborough. These three teams are going to be streets ahead of the rest. Cardiff, they could have another very heavy, hard season ahead of them. I really fear for them long term. Issues last year, they didn't win a game. I know it was their first season, they stepped up a level and they weren't ready, but I'm not sure about them. Which worries me long term for the stability of the league long term with Basingstoke. Is there going to be another league structure change? Are we going to have an EPL return? Is Bracknell preparing for a move to the Elite League, for example? Because there's a lot of rink refurbishment going on. We've got netting, we've got a new scoreboard. Looking at the new logo design and the way that they've signed basically a big name squad for this level, are Bracknell trying to say to the Elite League, hey, we want to step up. Peterborough, always good a good team. Swindon, solid. I would say your top three, top four, you're solid. I wouldn't say you've kept the same core together. Whether they pass their best is another thing. But these three teams are going to be streets ahead of the rest. Cardiff, they could be dead last again. They really could be dead last. But I don't like predicting too far ahead, because predictions in sport, look at this World Cup. You got to look at the World Cup and how many games been entertaining. How many? There's only one goalless game in this year's World Cup. You got to look at the NHL season we've just had with Vegas and how well they did. There is nothing I can say prediction wise on all three of these teams. They could all just not work. They could all really have second year syndrome where they're the big boys in the league and they get upset a few times by the smaller lads. I don't know. Bracknell isn't a team that changes every season. We've had a very stable lineup for a long time. We just haven't had that lineup to take us, over the next step. You know what I mean? We've got a new logo. We've got some new jersey designs. We're making improvements to the rink. We basically signed half of Basingstoke's team, which is why I think Basingstoke are going to be the whipping boys, because they basically got all our crap that we didn't want. And I'm saying that with love. I do honestly think that we're going to focus on the Elite League quickly. The Elite League, okay. Brayhead, change name. Right? So that is for marketing purposes, because you know why? Oh, God, I can't spell today. It's too hot for me today. I can't spell. Brains fail. Can't spell today. God, I can't spell. Why am I? That's happened. So now they only have, I think, what is it? It's 11 teams, isn't it? It's now an 11-team league. Obviously, they want it to be an even-numbered league in the Elite League. They want to. So, of course, Hull have been linked. The Hull Pirates have been linked to joining the Elite League. And they've had meetings and they've been told at least a year out. I then believe, I do honestly believe this, that Peterborough may also join. I actually believe this. Because the Brayhead Clan have changed name this last week and Edinburgh have gone bust, there's now 11 teams in the league and Hull have been linked to making the 12 again. You've got two teams in the south. That'll be a rivalry with Guildford straight away. Peterborough could be a rival with MK straight away. Rivalries sell tickets. Tickets make money. That's what I think is going to happen to the Elite League in the next, I don't know, what, 5 years? I think that's their plan for the next 5 years. That's what I think happens in the next 5 years is this happens, the Elite League. For the Basingstoke fans, honestly, they are, I mean, we may laugh at, the fact that their team is going to be pretty abysmal this year, and they are. Their team this year is not going to be amazing at all. Their team this year is basically Bratton and all the rejects from all the other teams. What I feel sorry for is the way that their rink situation has been handled by both the owners of the rink and the council has been pretty poor, and it's a very complex thing. It really is. The whole rink situation is far more complex than it's just falling down. It's a real bad situation that's been going on for a very, very long time. And it's come to a point now where it's got so bad that it's so public, and there have been protests outside the council. There have been letters written to the local MPs saying that we need something done. This is unacceptable. This is wrong. And it is. I can see, it not going well for the Bison. I don't know where the Bison end up as a team, or whether they continue after next year. I'm surprised they've even managed to get this season started, considering that the women's team were told they might not be able to finish the season because of the state of the rink. I don't think Swindon and Telford ever join the Elite League. Their rinks just are the wrong shape. They're not big enough. It's a difficult one to put a finger on, per se. The Elite League now, with the reason why the Elite League is wanting to grow, because this guy, well, technically these two guys, he's been drafted NHL, and this guy is now playing in the SHL, Sweden. So that's Sweden. That's why the Elite League wants to keep growing, is because these two guys have gone on. He's now going to be playing in Canada in the CHL, and he's going to be playing professional hockey in Sweden. That's why the Elite League wants to keep this growth going. And the Edinburgh Capitals is a blot on that copybook. That's why. That's why, but that's why I think the Elite League wants to keep growing, because of these two guys. These guys have been a success for British ice hockey in the last year. And it wouldn't surprise me if Ben O'Connor, he does end up here in the next 2 years. There is another young British lad who's going to be drafted next year as well. That is one of the reasons why the Elite League wants to keep growing, because of these guys. And the difference between our structures and North America is every club has a youth system. Every club has a youth system to develop local talent rather than a draft system. That's why European sport is so different to North American sport. I still think, though, that Swindon, I don't think they do. I think they're quite happy at always being in the second level of British ice hockey. They always have been. They've been very, very good at the level they're at. And yes, they do develop players that do go up to the Elite League or do go into play in Europe. But I think they're very, very happy with where they're at, per se, long term. I can't see them changing tack now. But that's for another video. And I don't have enough information on the Swindon team as much as you do, because you're a fan. And so therefore my opinion on it would be based on what I've seen and how that team has performed. And away from home, their record is shocking. So they're very good at home, but away from home, it's a terrible, terrible record over the last few years, where they do have those games where they do explode. I do know a fair bit about the Basingstoke women's team. My old boss, his partner, used to plays for them, and she's been helping. They've had to move to Slough. But they were told that because of the state of the rink at Basingstoke, they may not be able to finish the season, let alone, it doesn't matter that they're not on the main team, but it's also the way the ownership of the rink and the ownership of the Basingstoke Bison were very, very offensive and rude to them. And I'm not going to go into what was said, but the way they were treated by the ownership group was pretty crap, to be honest. They were not well treated. But the Basingstoke ring situation is terrible, and I can't see Basingstoke finishing the season. But that's another thing. Is it coming home? I've heard this a lot. Yes, we'll put the hashtag in. I give England a 50-50 chance. I give England a 50-50 chance. Our record against Croatia recently is like that. The last time we played Croatia competitively, we lost and lost badly. But the time before that, we battered them. So the last 2 times we played Croatia, we've lost. But that was under Slaven Bilic, and that was a decade ago. The time before that was 14 years ago, and we hammered them. So I give them a 50% chance. This team has something about them with England that we haven't had for a while, and that's called confidence and teamwork and team unity. And even if we don't win, we've exceeded expectations, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens on Wednesday. Until Wednesday comes, I'm not going to say anything. If we lose that game, then we've still got a game left, which is the third. We've got 2 games left minimum. We can, as the worst we can finish is 4th overall in the world. So there's a good chance it can come home. I'm quietly confident. I'm not getting too far ahead. That would be silly, and that probably, I think a few people have got a little bit too far ahead in things. Yes, Sterling. The one problem with Sterling, right? And a lot of people say it's to do with race. It isn't, because if Rashford's the guy constantly coming in to replace him, he's full black and Sterling's half caste. Sterling, he's wasteful. No, I can't spell today. It's really bad. And it's this. That's what's weakness with his game. He's wasteful in front of goal, and he's also lacking composure. There's his weaknesses. He makes poor decisions at times, and his final quality is not good enough. Composure and wasteful. The reason why he scores so many goals for Man City is Man City have De Bruyne in midfield and Fernandinho and other star players around him. And the amount of chances he gets for Man City, because Man City play a different type of football. For England, the type of football, I don't know with Sterling. I mean, he could be another John Barnes. He really could be another John Barnes. I don't know about Sterling. I mean, I look. We can be critical of players, and yes, his off-field antics, some of his, how many girlfriends he has and how many kids he's got. I mean, yeah, I think we have to be careful when we criticise these players. We're not the ones out there, under the pressure. We're putting the pressure on him. But it's like the club country, okay? This debate goes back till 1928, okay? He's very good for club. He's question mark for country. You know why? Style of play. Style of play suits him more at club than at country. That's why he seems to be struggling. I think Southgate needs to really. He's obviously showing something in training that we don't see. That's why you get selected when you're at a tournament. You're showing something in training that the people challenging you for a position are not showing. But on the field, there are several weaknesses in England's side. I can't remember how you spell Lingard, but I'm gonna Lingard. Sterling. Oh, and Dele Alli. Except Dele Alli, he did get his goal, and I will give Dele Alli that. These three, for what they projected to be when they were younger, are underperforming in the national jersey. Lingard and Dele Alli, I will say this: they've got goals in this tournament that have been very, very important. Dele Alli scores the winner against Sweden, so he comes off. He can do it occasionally. He's just got to. Lingard scored a cracker, against Panama. I'm not knocking Lingard for that. That leaves this guy really underperforming, and he is. I'm not saying he's perfect, but for all the mistakes he makes, he's putting a lot of energy in. And Lingard and Ali have scored their goals. Sterling hasn't. He's only got 2 goals in like 38 caps or something. He doesn't score for England, and that is basically. I'm going to link him to someone from our youth, who I have actually met, and he's a very nice guy, but an enigma. John Barnes. People are comparing him to John Barnes, and that is an unfair comparison because John Barnes was a different style of play. He was a more physical player. He was a bigger bloke. He could take a tackle, and John Barnes. He was decent for club. I'm not saying he was a bad club man, and he wasn't terrible for England. He got goals for it, just nowhere near as many as he should have. But the skill set he possessed. John Barnes, exceptionally skillful player, exceptionally talented, but international level and sometimes at club level went missing in games. but he's a different type of winger than Sterling is. He's far more physical, far bigger, and that is where I think the comparison's a bit wrong. He had a different role in the teams he played in the 80s and 90s, but John Barnes is exceptionally similar to Sterling in the sense that he didn't quite perform for the national side. Yes, Bracknell do have a new kit and logo, and I like it. I'm not 100% sold on the logo. They've basically modified the logo we have now, and it's just a head with bees underneath. I think the rebranding's there. They're going for trying to impress the Elite League at some point because the rink's been done up. But the new kit does look pretty sharp. It does look very, very sharp. It looks pretty good. It's a throwback to the Super League winning kit. So it's a very sharp looking kit and logo. They've put a lot of money and investment into doing this. I will be buying one. Let's just say that. I might buy one of all three. So it's not. I don't. It's on Twitter, so you're gonna have to find it on Twitter. It's not on. Or go on the Bracknell website. Just go on Bracknell website. That's your best bet. They're not fully released it yet on the all. It's not on all internet search engines. But yeah, I mean, so Sterling has been compared to John Barnes, and I think that's a slightly unfair comparison. But Sterling's now played at the top level now for a long time, since he was 18, 19. He should be better than what he is. And even at Man City, he misses a hell of a lot of chances. He's not accurate enough with his finishing and bringing other players into play right at the end. He seems to, whether he deserves all the criticism or not, he does put a lot of energy off the ball. He does make the runs. He is doing what Southgate's telling him to do in defence. In attack, though, it is a problem. It is, and it's something that needs to be resolved because long term, this could be an issue for England long term because there's a lot of other young English players who are getting their chances now in the Premier League and Championship, and they will quite quickly surpass him, and he could be, another bust. That's the issue. But I'm not saying that the John Barnes comparison is 100% fair because it isn't. It isn't 100% fair because John Barnes was a different style of attacking forward, and having seen John Barnes play, yes, he could be frustrating, but at the same time, when he was on game, he was far better than Sterling. Rashford, honestly, this is going to piss a lot of people off. I'll go for Welbeck. I would actually go for this guy. I'll play him. I would play him. He's fresh. He hasn't been used in the tournament. He's got that experience of tournament experience of actually winning a game in the tournament. I would give him a chance. It's something different that the Croatians wouldn't be expecting, and I would go with Rashford as well. I would play one or two. I would play one of them starting and one of them coming on. I would play one or the other or both. Those two, because Welbeck is fresh and Rashford's got pace. But with Rashford, it's all about the final ball. Again, his composure. That's the one that, and Croatia would probably be expecting with Vardy being a slight injury doubt, with a slight groin niggle, doesn't come on in the last game when the game was clearly England's. And if you put Vardy on, that would have caused that. They're the two guys. I mean, Welbeck is the trump card. He hasn't been played. Gaza. Ooh, James Galazzi. I know something that I'm not allowed to say. Right. Let's just say this, Casey. I will say this. I know something that I'm not allowed to say. My mate's dad sponsors the team. I have inside knowledge, and I'm not allowed to tell anyone. You will find out at the start of the season. That's what I'm going to say. You will find out at the start of the season with number 10, our number 10. Let's just say I can't tell you. Sworn to secrecy, mate. I would love to, but unfortunately, I can't. Closed guided secret. Most of the signings have been announced. So that is a need to know basis. Most of the signings though have been announced. So just go on the website and it will tell you what's been announced or not. But I would expect as Matt Ford has gone, and that most, in fact, surprisingly, most of the teams have got all their signing news done really early this year. Yeah, he's one of those three. No, I can't say anymore. Yeah, I am surprised though with how quickly a lot of teams this year named their signings very quickly. That says to me that there's the state of the sport is actually in a lot better than what it has been in the last 10 years. We have more certainty with teams now, which is good. He's a forward. He's a big forward. He's a goo. James Glatzy's a very nice chap. I've met him. I've spoken to him. He's a very funny, very nice chap. And he's been with the team basically for most of his playing career. So I wouldn't be surprised if he retires a B as well. But there we go. I mean, I can't really say anymore. Basically, my friend's dad was one of the sponsors of the team, and they know stuff that I'm not meant to. But a lot of the teams have been very quick in announcing their signings very early on, which is refreshing as a hockey fan, because most off seasons in this country, it's bite your fingers time. Is my team going to survive for next year? But and I am looking forward to the new season. I am looking forward to. I may not be able to watch as many games as I did last year, which it's a shame, but it is what it is. However, I am looking forward to this coming season. It seems that a lot of the teams are having a fresh start and some fresh impetus, and they're refreshing themselves. And the one team I'm worried about is, as I say, these guys. They may not be able to finish the season. So we'll have to see how these guys do. I do not follow them on Facebook. I follow them on Twitter. I also, when I'm looking at ice hockey stuff, Elite Prospects have updated their website, and then you have Cat Friendly for the NHL. So yeah, these are a good indicator because they have all the stats. So if you want to look at, especially Elite Prospects, they have all the stats from past years. And if you want to be really nerdy and see how your favourite players have done over their careers from start to finish, it has all the stats on. And they have recently updated all their surveys. They were lagging behind for a while. They've done a lot of updating on their player and team histories. That's a good place to look at info for players. You know, how old they are, how long they've been playing, how many assists, how many minutes, how many goals they've got, how many career games they played, how many playoff games they played, what leagues they played in. And Cat Friendly will give you lineups for for the NHL teams that are projected. Right, rivalries. Well, rivalries. I'll do my best. Ratnell and there's 3 of your rivals there. And well, even though they're called London, but they've gone back to Romford. So there you go. And don't forget, that's 6 out of your 19. That's 6 out of your 19 is already done. I would say MK. I don't know, they're by themselves. 7 teams. Probably Peterborough. They're rivals, and obviously that's 3, 6, 8, and then obviously Cardiff. By themselves. There's your rivalries. There's your rivalries in the south. These 4 all EPIHL. So that's the rivalry list. They could disappear or move. They've moved back to Romford, so we don't know if they're going to be called London or Romford from next season. Streatham, I've been to their rink in South London, rival, and Invicta are from Kent. So there's your rivalries regionally, bang like that. Cardiff, I think that's one of the reasons why they struggled last year. They had no rivalry. But I'm going to focus on the Warner and Smith question, because this is a cricket-based question, and this is really, really important. Well, Smith and Warner. How do we start about this? Let's get some names. Okay. Steve Smith. Right. Let's have a think. Steve Smith and Warner. Steve Smith, I think he was the wrong guy to be Australia captain in the first place, much like Joe Root's the wrong guy to be captain of England. I think the fallout, though, there hasn't been such vitriol about them going to Canada. I think with how it was handled by Cricket Australia. Now, Cricket Australia, and we have to put these guys in here. I can't spell stuff. I really can't spell stuff. Cricket Australia gave them. Oh God, nothing is going. I can't write today either, let alone spell. But this 1-year ban only applies in Australia. The ICC ban, which I'll put in, ICC, you see that? Yeah, that's still on the board. ICC ban, that's your ban. So, should they be allowed? Well, they're not banned internationally, so that's that taken out the equation. Cricket Australia only banned them for a year. And Warner, no leadership position. So Warner's career with Australia is done. That no leadership means Warner is done in the sense he won't be back. He won't be back in the dressing room. Steve Smith, on the other hand, you got to look at this 1-year ban and how Cricket Australia banned them. And let's get this up. It's this bit here and what the ban covers. The ban covers domestic and Test cricket for Australia. They're playing in Canada. The Canadian cricket authorities have said yes, they should be allowed. Also, it's not the highest level of cricket in Canada. Canada's cricket is good. They're good for the level they're at, but it's not the biggest sport in Canada. Canada's got two bigger sports. Okay, Canada is well known for NHL, okay, and CFL, and then you got the Toronto, and then you got I don't know, NBA and MLB and MLS. So the other sports that are played in Canada is ice hockey, Canadian football, not American football. So it's similar but different. You've got the Toronto Raptors basketball, you've got the Blue Jays in Major League Baseball, and you've got the MLS Toronto FC. Cricket comes much lower down, and it's even behind. God, rugby union is higher up. Cricket is here. This is where it is. That is where it is on the list of things. It's right down here. So they're not going to get the press coverage. They're not going to get the. So that's why it's not such a big a deal. That's why it's not such a big a deal. It's where they're playing. If they were playing in, at, say, I don't know, if these guys were playing in, I don't know, here, or here, if they were playing in England, the cricket media would explode. If they were playing in the West Indies, it would explode. The fact that they're playing in India, the ban only covers Australia. There's no ICC ban. So we may not want them to play, especially David Warner. He's a prick. We may not like them playing, but we can't stop them playing. And it's a very dangerous precedent to set when you go, because they're banned by the domestic cricket authority or domestic sporting authority, they shouldn't play anywhere else. We've seen it in other sports as well, and it's a very dangerous road to go down because it sets a dangerous precedent that is more damaging than helpful. Because guess what? Lawsuits. They could sue if they're blocked. I think they've already cost themselves a lot of money, and this guy is hated. Steve Smith, on the other hand, I think he will be allowed his chance at redemption. But I don't know how he will be accepted back into the fold. It has to be for me. Ball tampering has to be for me it's a watershed moment. When I say watershed, Sri Lanka were playing a test series and they were accused of it and they threatened to walk out and throw the test match. So attitudes are already changing with ball tampering. Whether I think David Warner's done. Steve Smith, though, I think yeah, he did get the situation wrong, and he does deserve a shot at redeeming his reputation. Whether he's accepted back into the fold, we'll see. But there seems to be a bit more sympathy for this guy. But there's one guy we're forgetting. This guy. This guy's barely getting mentioned. And that's interesting. This guy here, he's not getting mentioned much. He only got a 9-month ban? I feel most sorry for this guy because the two experienced players, and to say that the rest of the team and the leadership group and the coaches weren't aware is horseshit. This guy got thrown under the bus as well. And I think that's what's damaged the reputation of Smith and Warner more, is they sold the young lad down the river. But I don't honestly know. I think we as fans may not want them to play, and this is what I'm going to end on. I'm not on the station. We may not want them to play, but there's nothing to stop them from playing. And the fact they've chosen Canada is probably to take the media spotlight off them because the sport isn't as big as in Canada. And the Canadians will probably love that experience to help grow their game. David Warner, though, I'm not sure David Warner ever plays cricket for Australia or domestically in Australia ever again. I think he could be done. But we'll see what happens next year. In I think March, we'll see what happens next year. We'll see what the response is from the fan base. It's divided cricketing fans up and down, not just Australia but around the world. What has happened? It's divided the cricketing media. It's divided cricketing experts. But the sport itself has got a lot of issues. It needs to look in the face and go, right, this needs to change. It does. It does. And I mean, I don't know what else they could do to change. I do feel sorry for them. I do. I really do. But I don't know. Solution team cricketing with Bairstow, Roy, and Hales. That's an interesting one. Right. Okay. Well, Bairstow's an easy one. You got Bairstow and Josh Butler. Okay. Both are wicket keepers. Josh Butler proved recently. Yeah, he's pretty good as a batsman. He's pretty good. I would say give Josh Butler a little run in the side. Bairstow was in the side that fell apart in the Ashes, so I would say give Josh Butler a run. It then means Bairstow has to up his game if Butler's been given a run in the side. That's my solution on that one. Roy and Hales. Okay, I can't write now. My writing's gone. Let me do this again. So you got Roy, Hales, Alex Hales. Here's the thing with Alex Hales. He was involved with Ben Stokes in that punch-up last year. So, for me, that's a no-no. I would go with Roy. Until Ben Stokes, that's what. Until Ben Stokes and his legal stuff is cleared up, I wouldn't have Hales on the side. Honestly. This is the issue with England at the moment. Is there's a lot of players who are linked to Ben Stokes because they're buddies with him, and Alex Hales was out drinking on a tour night, so they're still actually playing a one-day series against the West Indies, and they ended up in trouble. So for me, Alex Hales shouldn't play until their court case is done. Even though he's been found not charged, he was there. There's a court case. He's a witness. So I would go with Roy at the moment. And after the legal ramifications of this are sorted out, then we can assess whether they should, that's I'm concerned that Ben Stokes has been given a leadership position considering his off-field indiscretions. But that's my personal opinion on that situation. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a selector. I do think there are selection issues with the England setup. I'm not going to hide away from my thoughts on that. I do think there are issues with England selectors and the ECB. I've put a fair few videos on the channel about my views on the ECB and the issues with cricket and what can be done to fix the issues with cricket, and we can disagree or agree with it as much as we want. These are my personal views. Not everyone's going to agree with my views on how the ECB runs the game and on selection policy. But there is one cat amongst the pigeons. This guy. Give him a shot. The England selectors are too conservative when there's a star player like that, or an unknown talent, a raw talent. Give him a go. The Indians will not. Well, some of the Indians may know a bit about him for the IPL, but he's a pretty raw, unknown talent. And if you're building for a World Cup next year, you want as many of your players eligible for selection playing and having a go at the top level. Give that guy a go. That's my personal opinion on that. That's my personal opinion on the England setup. Yeah, the T20 was dominated by India. They dominated that series. The T20 is a game that the Indians have taken to like a duck to water with the IPL. I do have worries about the IPL long term, but at this point, it is what it is, really. So, but it's this time of the year where as soon as the World Cup is done, Wimbledon finishes as well. Wimbledon and the World Cup are taking place at the same time. When they're done, the Tour de France is going on, and then when that's done, there's a bit of a gap until the next sporting events take place. So it's busy, but then going to get very, very quiet, and that's a bit of an annoying thing when it comes to running a sports channel. The England set up the ECB, and I'm going to talk about the ECB quickly. And we're going to look at one of their delightful ideas that I think is going to harm the game and help the game. The 100-ball format. Oh, and the TV rights. These are more damaging to the game at the moment than the selection issues or the fact that the test team isn't doing great. Because the TV rights are in place, it's pay-per-view. Subscription. Less people are watching. Less people are watching, less people are interested, less young kids want to play the game. That's my view on the 100-ball format. I couldn't make it any more simple how stupid that format idea is. Completely moronic. And I also believe it is time. We need some fresh. We need some fresh faces at the ECB. That's my solution with the England cricket team, because it comes from the governments. We need fresh faces. We need to look at more, I don't know, more free to wear. That's how you help English cricket. Is you get some fresh faces in the governance of the game. You get rid of that crappy thing. That's just crap. You get a bit more free to wear, which is coming. You get less of that crap. Because right now, one guy has a lot of say about the finances, and this guy is one of the biggest. I'm going to control my language here, but this guy, he has a big say on pro sports in this country with his crap called Sky Sports. And this has come up in a few videos that I've done recently on the channel on my favourite sports and the teams that I support. It's come up, the negativity around pay-per-view. It's not just for fans. It's get rid of that, more free to wear. Makes it more accessible for those who can't make it to the ground. So let's say there's a test match in Edgbaston. I'm not going to go to Birmingham for a day out. Firstly, because Birmingham's a shitter. Just going to Vauxhall, it's an hour and a half to Vauxhall and back for me to go to the Oval. This guy has far too much say on how professional sports in this country he's got too much financial clout. Sky Sports has not actually helped sport in this country as much as it should have, because it's that format. If Sky Sports was a bit more free to wear and accessible, if they had a free to wear structure where, they bought the TV rights, and it was commercial TV, but it was freely, readily available, we wouldn't have this stupid 100 ball format. We wouldn't have the issue with needing fresh faces at the ECB. The Elite League will come on TV the bigger it gets. The more it grows, it will be stopped. They will stop streaming it online and they'll bring it to TV. But Sky Sports is the issue with cricket. Cricket peaked in 2005 for attendance and growth, with kids signing up for cricket clubs up and down the country and schools signing up for the ECB's cricket programme. This bastard, and I'm going to lose my rag with this guy now, this bastard cashes in on that cash cow and milks us for it. And because less fans are able to watch on TV, they want to go to games. Because there's a demand for fans to go to games, they also milk the prices as well. The ECB decided to go for the cheap option, which was the short-term option, which was money. That's what's killing the game. And it's the same. And these are the sports that Sky Sports and BT's up. So you've got Sky Sports up here. And then you've got these buggers. BT, useless. Don't get BT Sport. It is a terrible. I watched their Champions League coverage on the YouTube, the Champions League and Europa League finals. Their coverage was appalling. And now Amazon are getting in. Oh, God, yes. Right? It's all it's all that. That is what the problem is. Sport has become overly reliant, and this, right, is losing. Is a loss maker. The only reason why BT Sports is still going is because of the internet packages, and that's why people's Sky BT bills are going through the roof. It's because of this failure. On the private school front, that is a misnomer. Originally, yes, but let's get that off. You've got to make it accessible. To make it accessible is to advertise and open days. Cheap tickets for kids. That's how you get people interested. You advertise the sport. You have open days at the local sports club in the off season. So when it's winter and it's not playable, you have the open days and you show them around the facilities and say that this is what we do in the off season. You do open days or open training sessions. Cheap tickets for kids. That's how you get them in. Yes, a lot of private schools do play it, but so do a lot of state schools. There is a state school program that the ECB and the government do have in place. They need to do it more. But surprisingly, Ian Botham and all that lot, half of them went to state school. Yeah, the team from the Ashes in the 80s and the Ashes in 2005, a lot of them, state school. They came through state school. It may seem like it's an elitist sport. It's actually less elitist than you think. Yeah, no, free sports. That is important. Free Sports TV, which is owned by these guys. They've worked out, pay-per-view sports companies worked out they're not getting enough viewers. They came up with a free sports channel. So they've worked out the Sky model and the BT Sport model is going to kill, is actually bad. They've worked out that people are not willing to pay for it. There you go. I think we're talking about governance of sport now, and we're talking about TV rights. And TV rights for me is a contentious issue because I feel that these big TV companies are and are really milking us fans. Young people aren't willing to pay for it, and it's not just cricket that has problems. So we look at sports in the UK. Price of sport. Okay, we'll use that as a title. TV mostly pay per view or subscription. That's where most of the issue is. So expensive. Now the ironic thing with this structure was it was meant to make ticket prices cheaper. It hasn't. Ticket prices. Okay. This structure meant to be cheaper for this. Opposites happen. Ticket prices going up. Because of this, player wages going up. It's a flawed system. The only way to bring the cost the other way around free-to-air TV will see that drop and that drop to more sustainable levels. That's the way to solve it. They believed, right, that having subscription TV would keep ticket prices low, and the opposite has happened. Prices have gone up year on year to the point where they're overinflated, and the average fan cannot afford. Player wages have gone up rather than down, and instead of going up with inflation and going up at a steady rate, they've gone up by over 200% in the Premier League. That's what's causing the problem. And sadly, that's why I'm falling out of love with, especially football. So there we go. There's a disconnect between pro sportsmen and clubs and the communities that they play in. Free sport. Yes, no, free sports does. They do show a lot of sports from around the world, and some of them are the lesser known sports. But Eurosport used to fill free sports niche, and Eurosport went from free to air to pay for view only, and Eurosport's losing viewers. You have to pay for Eurosport. They decided to go down a stupid route, and it's costing viewers, and they're making less money. But there we go. The issue with sport is one word. That's what's killing sport. Greed. Greed is what's killing sport. Totally. The greed of the big sports is what's killing sport. Is this. And the issue is player there you go. Premier League football player salaries are up by 200% on average. They're up at the top end. How the hell is that sustainable for fan bases? And also, fans are rightly being ripped off. And I understand. Ticket prices are too high. Merchandise is too high. They're not. Travel costs aren't taken into consideration. The club doesn't put on the free travel they should. Yeah. Mercenary players. I don't like talking about the negatives in sport. I like talking about some of the good stories. So let's look at the positives we've had. Okay, right? Tennis player. That's positive. He's now ranked top 20 in the world. So he's tennis. Yeah, that's my annoying neighbour in his stupid little car. Tennis player, Carl Edmund. That's positive. Okay, it's positive. I will say this about the England football team. England, how well they've done at the World Cup, that is a positive. Some players are overplayed, you play for them, but that is a positive. And I'm going to go for NHL. That's a positive. That's a positive that we need to look at as well. Here's some of the positive stories going on in sport, British sport only, but I could talk about world sport. But Liam Kirk getting drafted by the NHL has raised the profile of the game and the sport of ice hockey in this country. England doing well at the World Cup has created a positive atmosphere around people in this country. Carl Edmund doing well in tennis. Okay, yes, he got knocked out against Novak Djokovic, but he gave him a damn good showing, and he's now ranked top 20 in the world, which says there's life after Andy Murray. And Andy Murray is the most anal person I've ever met. He's boring. Okay, here's some positives. That's football. So yeah, there are some positives out there. Sadly, as you say, the players pay for the money. They do, and let me just get rid of that. And it's sad that the negativity is there. I will say this. And 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 it is interesting. But yes, the World Cup seems to have brought a lot of communities together, a lot of people together, and the country needs it really badly right now. It needs some positivity for the first time in a very, very long time, very long time. But the price of sport, the cost of sport, the price slash cost of sport. Let's do a little spider web map kind of thing. The old um, mind mapping kind of thing. Okay, cost of sport puts fans off. One, yeah, didn't do that. Then you got to look at best kids playing. Said sport. It's two. That's what happens when you raise costs. Oh, stupid pen. I'm having. I thought, well, can't write, can't hold on pens, and then you got to look at overinflated wages of which then links into putting fans off. This is the issue with the price of sport. It puts fans off. They're priced out. The players are paid too much. That puts fans off, and then less kids get to play the sport or get involved with the sport because it is too expensive. This is what a lot of sports, not only in this country but around the world, need to look at: is the price and the costs of it, and how to get young people involved, how to get those old school fans back who've been lost to them, and to look at this, how much this talent actually gets paid, and how the money made by the sport, because the merchandisers and the TV rights sold abroad should pay those players. The Premier League clubs have made so much money in the last 5 years, we could be let in for free. They choose to keep racking the prices up. So that's my cost of sport in a nutshell there. It's greed that's killing it. Now, yes, this year at the World Cup, the England players have played above themselves. They have played exceptionally well as a group. But, you know, And it is unfortunate that you're not going to be able to watch the game, but it doesn't matter if you miss the game. You've seen the story grow from they're not expected to get out of the group to, hey, they're in a semi-final. And yeah, the World Cup is on free TV, and it should stay that way. I think there'll be a massive backlash if they put it on pay-per-view. A massive backlash that I don't think the FA would recover from. The FA has structural reforms needed. No major international tournament will ever go on pay-per-view TV apart from cricket. Cricket sold its soul over a decade ago. Rugby union, rugby league, football, the Olympics will always be on free-to-air TV because the backlash against the private media companies and the authorities would be damaging for the image that they want to project. And cricket next year, I will put cricket in here. And this is where I think the ECB needs to pay attention because they need to look at the viewership figures of the free-to-air. Cricket, there is going to be some... Oh God, I can't spell. Air matches. Next year onwards, there's going to be some. The ECB needs to pay attention to that. If they don't pay attention to how much the viewership goes up, they're mugs. But the problem with the ECB is this. And this guy again. That's the problem that the ECB has, is they're too tied to Rupert Murdoch and Sky. They sold out in 2005. They've got themselves greedy. Rupert Murdoch can severely weaken the sport financially. Rupert Murdoch has cricket by the balls. He's ruined the game for me. He's made it that now the centralised contracts. So you got to look at player contract. Gone up. And while I admit that cricket players are underpaid, some of their contracts are too much. What would I do if I met Rupert Murdoch? Probably something highly illegal. Probably something that will get me put away for 25 years for premeditation. I've been asked this about if I would ever meet Piers Morgan, Rupert Murdoch. Personally, I'll let him be known what a snake he is. But I don't think I'll ever get close to Rupert Murdoch because of all the security. And although, but why would I ever want to meet him? That guy has destroyed British sport and has ruined the British media and has corrupted and is such a vile excuse of a human being that he's managed to worm his way into the establishment and have such an impact, a negative impact on the British way of life. Post Hillsborough, one of his newspapers printed lies about 96 dead people. While I'm not a big fan of Liverpool Football Club, and I'm not a fan about how some members of the Liverpool fan base milk the Hillsborough disaster, what he wrote in his paper and what allowed to be published, it's disgusting. The way that they basically hacked a dead girl's phone. If I ever met Rupert Murdoch, I swear to God, he probably wouldn't be walking away from that. I have my views on Murdoch. I have my views on how I feel that his TV company is holding sport ransom at a time when we have issues. Now, here's the issues we have. We have a lack of sports facilities nationwide, not regionally, but nationwide, okay? And that includes playing fields. The playing fields issue has been going on since the 70s. Another issue we have is obesity. It's a health issue. It's a health problem. It's over egged in the media, but you take away the playing fields, you have a health issue. So there's lack of sports facilities. So what do? Pay, make it more inaccessible for young kids to get involved in sport. You put it behind a paywall, you take away the facilities them to play on. They're all linked. I would tell him, you've actually damaged the health of this nation, both mentally, morally, and physically. You can fuck off. That's my view on Rupert Murdoch. He's really taken advantage of a good thing in British sport at a time when it needed positivity. He's milked it, and he's abused it. And I do think pay-per-view TV and subscription TV is coming to an end in the next decade. In the next decade, it'll either all be free to wear or stream free. And things like Twitch and YouTube and other online formats, it will be freely streamed because they can still get the ad revenue and they can target a bigger audience who'll be more willing to watch. So there you go. The secret about Gaza. Well, firstly, his name is not spelled Gaza. He's not a Palestinian. He's an Italian Canadian. Basically, there's a few roster names that they have been signed. They haven't been announced. You'll find out in the beginning of the season. But you can go on NIHL roster updates. They have everything. He is still going to be playing next year. I know where he's playing next year. I just can't tell you where he's playing next year until he's been announced, basically. Simple. I really can't tell you. Partly because like my mate, his dad does sponsor the team, and it hasn't been fully released publicly yet. So for me to say someone online, I'll get a bit of poo for that. Simple. So I can't. You'll find out when he's announced where he's going, but he is playing somewhere next year. And to be fair, he's what? He's 33, 34. So he hasn't got long left as a player necessarily at this level for the role he does. He is more of a grinder kind of player. That grit you need. He's a bit of an enforcer. He won't be playing for, I would say, he's got a couple of years left in him. But at the same time, I can see him getting involved in a coaching role. I can see him down the line still being involved in the sport in years to come because he's put so much of his spare time into the sport. I can't see him just going, I'm retiring from the sport. But it's exciting times for all teams. I'm also very surprised by how quickly a lot of the teams this year announced all their signings and announced their squad moves. And there seems to be a sort of refreshing change to the sport this off season in this country. It's very refreshing seeing there's a lot of positivity around the sport, and that comes back to Liam Kirk, and that comes back to Ben O'Connor going to the SHL and Liam Kirk getting drafted by the NHL. So there's positivity around the team and around the league and around the sport in general, and there's a long way to go to keep it going. The Edinburgh Capitals was a downer. It was. The whole Pirates not getting accepted to the Elite League is a bit of a downer. But there we go. There are some players who have played in the Division 1 who have decided this year, for whatever reason, be it through the team management or themselves, to take that step back. And some of them are younger players. Some younger players have decided to drop down a level. They're still playing. Stepping down a level is not necessarily a bad thing. It is what is required by some players, and because the Elite League has lost a team in the Edinburgh Capitals, that means there's only 11 teams now going for two-way contracts with a lot of these younger players, and it is what it is. The playing level in Division 2 is nowhere near the same as Division 1. That's why Cardiff struggled so much last year. Is they were so out of their depth and so not prepared for the physicality, the slightly better quality, the slightly higher pace, and the fact they were playing against four former EPIHL sides, they just were not on the same page. But I'm looking for Cardiff. I'm looking for Cardiff to become more competitive as time goes on. Honestly, to have it an 8-team league with the possibility of Basingstoke going out of business, which will make it 7, is why the EPIHL folded. It was decided in the Division 1 South there'll be no promotion relegation. And it's also going to be decided this will be the last season for Division 1 North to have promotion relegation. After that, teams have to apply to go up. I think there was enough teams. There's more teams up north as well. And the Deeside Dragons were nearly as bad as Cardiff, if not worse. Because Cardiff is in the south of the UK, they want to have that second team in Cardiff because the Devils are doing so well. They want to grow the game in Wales, I think. And admittedly, there's no real local rivals for Cardiff as such, but with the success the Devils have had and how consistent Cardiff Devils have been over the years, it's kind of good to see that second team in the Cardiff area. And when they got promoted up, they were the Division 1 champion, the Division 2 champions. There was an issue with Chelmsford and Oxford not being, happy with the format this time last year. I'm happy with the application system, similar to the Elite League, where they have to assess if the team is viable. I think it's another reason why Deeside were happy to go down. They were clearly struggling to meet their commitments, and hockey is an expensive sport to run compared to for all the equipment and stuff. I think the application to go up is the better way, and that's the way the National League is going to go from next season completely. From next year in 2019, that's the system they're going to adopt, where the teams that want to go up will have to tender an application and be assessed, much like the Elite League, where there has to be: are you a viable team? Can you viably compete at a higher level financially, and can you be competitive enough at that level above to make it that you don't get battered? And Cardiff found out the hard way that they didn't get enough EPIHL roster talent, and they didn't get enough players who had played in the Division 1 talent because of where they are. They had to have a tough learning curve. Dragons 2 will probably get merged into Dragons 1, and those extra players will already get picked up by other teams in the Northwest, like the Blackburn Hawks, for example. This is the issue with the promotion relegation system when you have a secondary team playing under the same colours as a reserve team when promotion relegation happens. Because if promotion relegation had happened in the Division 1 South, the Bracknell Hornets would have been playing against the Bracknell Bees. And a lot of those Bracknell Hornets players are on two-way contracts with the Bracknell Bees. It doesn't work. It's a conflict of interest. They're owned by the same people. That's why I think the application to go up makes sense. Personally, it'd be nice to see all the secondary teams play in the division below as feeder teams for the division above. No, I think what's going to happen in the end is the Southern Division will become a bigger league, where you'll get let's say you got Division 1 and D2, and what's going to happen is all the teams that have, like, let's say Slough and Chelm and Oxford, they will all eventually go up into Division 1, and then Division 2 will be the second teams only. That's what I think will eventually happen. Is Slough, Chelmsford and Oxford will go up, and all the second reserve teams will stay in Division 2. I think that's the goal. And I think what else is going to happen is we're going to see, I don't know, bearing in mind I'm using Division 1 North as well as an example, Bracknell, Hull and And maybe Sheffield question mark against them go up to EIHL. That's what I think eventually happens. Is that kind of shift happens? That's if, bearing in mind, we have to assume that the game continues to grow in this country, that more British players go to the NHL draft, and that the EIHL wants to grow by 3 or 4 more teams. In theory, they have the arenas for it. They have the arenas for it. That's why I put a question mark on Sheffield. The other 3, yes, I can see them with the ring size going up. And Slough, Chelmsford, and Oxford ending up in Division 1. That's how I can see it happening. That's, in a perfect world, that would be how the structure would work. In a perfect world. For example, I'm using these as an example to fill the gap that Bracknell and Peterborough would leave there. And of course, you've got teams up north like, Sheffield is the ice hockey capital of the UK. It's got the biggest fan base. It's got 2 arenas. What teams I put to move? They could go within the next year or 2. They could be a year or 2 out. They're the 3 teams that I could see going up. And this, they could go next year. They could go as soon as 2019 question mark. And these guys, I would say, what, 2022, about then. That's what I could see happening. That's an automatic rivalry for Guildford. That's an automatic rivalry for Milton Keynes, and that is an automatic rivalry for Sheffield. And it makes the EHL a 14-team league. I can see that happening. Whether it does happen or not is up to A, how quickly the EIHL, the Elite League, wants to expand, and B, how well they go. How many more players in the British system end up going towards drafting for the NHL. If more and more British players get put into the NHL draft, we could see this happen. And we'll have to see. I can see the plan for a 14-team league, and I can see it coming. I can see that being a possibility. I'm not saying it's definite. It's just theory. I know Hull had meetings at the end of the Elite League season, and they did announce a statement that they were being put on tenure for a year's deferment. So Hull, it could be the 2019 slash. That's what they could go. Streatham, I saw a Streatham Bracknell game on a Saturday with a mate of mine just before Christmas. I don't know. Streatham played a lot of games on the Saturday. It all depends on when the fixture list comes out. So you look at the fixture list, and that's announced what, August? That gets announced in August. What? So there's a month before the fixture list comes out. It all depends also on where you finished. And also what suits each team. Bracknell played most of their home games. Bracknell, for example, on Sundays. And they have done for about 8 years, 10 years. They used to have a lot of Saturday games. They do more on Sundays now. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to work it out. Bearing in mind, it's a 9-team league in D1. So one team will always have a minimum. One team will have a rest day or rest weekend when they're not playing. So I this is why you need an even numbered league. That's why you need at least 10 teams minimum. So fixture list gets sorted out. So while we have this lovely weather and it's the middle of summer, the pre-season games start what? Pre-season has pretty much started with all these players being announced. They're already in pre-season training. They're already training. The pre-season games are what? End of August. And the fixture list gets announced mid-August. And bearing in mind, any fixture list in any league can be changed due for a variety of reasons. So I don't know. I don't know if we're still having the M4 Derby series between Swindon and Bracknell. But that's how pre-season works. You have your pre-season training, which depending on the level you're playing at and how quickly your teams assemble, can start any time from midsummer till late summer. End of August is when you have your pre-season games. Beginning of September, depending on how the fixture list has been worked out, and your fixture list comes out in about a month's time. So honestly, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the NHL. Look, if you look at football, some teams are already in pre-season while and guess what? The World Cup's still going on. Some teams have already started their pre-season, yet the World Cup is still going on, and some of their players, aren't available. So it depends on the sport. It depends on how the fixture list is organised, and some of the fixtures have already been released for the Championship football. The fixtures have already been released for the leagues, like Premiership, Championship, Division 1, Division 2, like League 1, League 2. It varies from sport to sport. I don't think we do get a trophy. I don't think so. It's just, it used to be Bracknell used to play Telford and Manchester Phoenix, and then we used to have an Liverpool derby against Slough, and then they did do a derby match against Guildford, like the Boxing Day match. The M4 derby is a new creation because Guildford gone a league up and Slough gone a league down, and it's a new creation. But there we go. It is what it is. All right. Cool. Anyway, I'm going to wind this down now. So I would like to say thanks to for all the questions. I mean, notice on the Basingstoke, Swindon, M4. Which links to the M4 and the M3. That's Slough. Slough's in the M4 as well. That's where they are. yeah, Basingstoke's on the M3, Slough's on the M4, Swindon's on the M4, Bracknell's on the A329, which is in between the two. But there you go. Anyway, I'm gonna call that a day. So that's me done. So I've got to take all this stuff into the other room and set it up for another video and do my research for the other channel. But it's been a pretty good live stream. There's been some interesting questions. And first live stream with the crazy whiteboard. So yeah, no, it is an interesting talking point discussing things like that. And there will be some other live streams, in due course later on in the summer before obviously the hockey starts and the football starts. Wednesday, what am I doing Wednesday? Football. Oh yeah, I'm watching the football. Yeah, Wednesday I've got a lot to do anyway. I'll be watching the football in the evening. I'll be watching the football tomorrow night, but I've got to go and do other things before any videos get done. A lot of housework to do, other bits and pieces. But anyway, I'm gonna leave that there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Cheers for all the questions, and it's been a pretty good stream. So thank you very much. Ta-ta. Goodbye for now.